The WNBA is about to do something to the Indiana Fever that no opponent ever could. They're about to let someone walk into Indianapolis and legally take one of Caitlin-Clark's most important teammates. No trade, no negotiation, no compensation, just gone. And the worst part? The Fever might not be able to stop it. Here's what's happening. The 2026 WNBA expansion draft is coming, likely in the first week of April. Two brand new franchises, the Toronto Tempo and the Portland Fire, need to build their rosters from scratch. And the way they do that is by rating yours. Every existing team has to submit a list. You get to protect 5 players. 5. Everyone else? They're available. The expansion teams pick one unprotected player from each existing roster, and that player is theirs. If that sounds familiar to longtime Fever fans, it should. Indiana was literally born this way. Back in 2000, the Fever themselves were an expansion team, built from players taken off other rosters. 26 years later, they're on the other side of it, and it stings a lot worse from this direction. Now, 5 protection spots sounds like enough, until you actually look at Indiana's situation. Caitlin-Clark, obviously protected. She's the face of the franchise, she's under contract through 2027, and letting her go would be organizational malpractice. Aliyah Boston, protected, still on her rookie deal. The Clark-Boston pairing is the foundation of everything Stephanie White is building in Indiana. Kelsey Mitchell, protected. She's the Fever's most reliable secondary scorer, the longest tenured player on the roster, and GM Amber Cox has made it crystal clear she intends to keep Mitchell in Indiana. That's 3. 2 spots left. Lexie Hull, almost certainly protected. She's a restricted free agent, meaning Indiana has the right to match any offer. Under Stephanie White's system, Hull's defensive versatility and willingness to do the dirty work make her exactly the kind of player you don't let walk away. And then there's Makayla Timpson, the 2025 first-round pick who barely played as a rookie but showed enough flashes that the front office sees real upside. She's under contract, she's young, she's cheap, and in a league where young front-court talent is scarce, she's a protection priority. That's 5. Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull, Timpson. And if you're counting, you already know who that leaves out. Sophie Cunningham. Now let that sit for a second, because this isn't just about basketball. This is about ripping apart the most important chemistry the Fever have built in years. Cunningham came to Indiana in January 2025 through a 4-team blockbuster trade from the Phoenix Mercury. And from the moment she arrived, she changed the culture of that locker room. She averaged 8.6 points, 3.5 rebounds, and over a steal per game in 30 appearances. She shot career highs from the field, nearly 47%, and from 3, over 43%. Those are elite shooting numbers, the kind of numbers that make a backcourt with Caitlin-Clark genuinely dangerous. But her stats aren't even the real story. Cunningham became Caitlin-Clark's enforcer. That's not an exaggeration, yet that's literally what everyone calls her. Remember June 17th? The Fever are playing Connecticut at Mohegan Sun Arena. J.C. Sheldon gets into it with Clark after a hard foul. Then Marina Mabrey shoves Clark to the floor. The crowd goes crazy. And what happens next? Sophie Cunningham grabs Sheldon by the head on the very next play and brings her to the ground. That moment went viral, and it told every team in the WNBA, you come at Caitlin-Clark, you answer to Sophie Cunningham. Off the court, these two became inseparable. Cunningham calls Clark one of her little cousins. She described her on a podcast as the biggest dork she's ever met, and somehow a generational talent at the same time. Clark once commented on Cunningham's Instagram, nothing but glamorous vacation photos, and just wrote, "Do you play basketball?" They're part of a trio with Lexie Hull that fans nicknamed the Tres Leches. They get confused for sisters. They match outfits. They roast each other constantly online. Cunningham was Clark's celebrity caddy at an LPGA Pro-Am event. And when the injuries hit last season, Clark with the groin strain, Cunningham with the torn MCL, Ari McDonald with a broken foot, Sydney Colson with a torn ACL, the Fever lost 4 key players and still pushed to Game 5 of the WNBA semifinals. Through all of it, Cunningham and Clark were on that bench together every single game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, leading the sideline energy, refusing to let the team quit. That's not just a teammate, that's the emotional heartbeat of the Fever's locker room. And now here comes the expansion draft, ready to rip that away. Here's the nightmare scenario for Fever fans. Toronto or Portland selects Sophie Cunningham with their expansion pick. Under the expected rules, the expansion team could potentially use a core designation on her, locking her in for at least one season, even though she's technically an unrestricted free agent. That means Cunningham wouldn't just be drafted away from Indiana, she could be forced to stay away. No coming back in free agency, no quick reunion. Now, there is some hope for Fever fans. Because nearly 80% of the WNBA is hitting unrestricted free agency this offseason, there's a real question about whether expansion teams would even bother selecting a free agent who might just leave. Why waste a pick on someone who could walk? But think about it from Toronto's perspective. You're a brand new franchise. You have zero fans, zero identity, zero star power, and sitting there, unprotected, is one of the most popular players in the WNBA. A player with a massive social media following. A player fans already associate with Caitlin-Clark, the most famous athlete in the sport. A player who just launched her own podcast. A player whose jersey sold out last season. If you're the Toronto Tempo, you're not drafting basketball production. You're drafting attention. You're drafting ticket sales. You're drafting relevance on day one. And that makes Sophie Cunningham a target. Stephanie White's front office knows this. Kelly Krauskopf and Amber Cox are staring at a math problem with no clean answer. Protect Cunningham, and you leave Timpson, your investment in the future, exposed. Protect Timpson, and you gamble that the expansion teams pass on your culture, your enforcer, your locker room. This is the cruel math of expansion. The league is growing. 15 teams now, with Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia coming by 2030. That growth is great for the sport, but the cost gets paid by teams like Indiana, who finally built something special and might have to watch it get torn apart by a rulebook. The CBA just got ratified. The new salary cap jumps to $7 million, more than 4 times last year. The Supermax starts at $1.4 million. Free agency is about to be a frenzy. And somewhere in that chaos, Sophie Cunningham's future will be decided, not by her, not by Caitlin-Clark, not by Stephanie White, by a coin flip between 2 franchises that didn't exist a year ago. Protected lists are due April 1st, as officially confirmed by the league. The expansion draft follows around April 6th. That's 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks until we find out if the Tres Leches stays together, or if Toronto just stole Sophie Cunningham from Caitlin-Clark.